Of the Bank of Ghana and its work. The governor, the board, and the government should take note that this politicization
MB multimedia.
This must stop. Mr. Governor, it set precedents that will collapse the operational independence of the central bank. The bank is not a political party. The board of the bank is not the majority caucus. The audited statements of the central bank cannot be reduced to a political party's press release. Politicization of the work of the bank is corrosive, and it should not happen again. Now, having dealt with that, we want to take you into the accounts, because the whole exercise of that propaganda thing they did on Thursday was to ensure that people won't pay attention to the accounts, and you will just believe and be reporting everything that you say, that they've made a loss of 15 billion, it was, for good purposes, etc. We want to take you into the accounts yourself. And there are 7 key things that we want to draw your attention to this afternoon. First, ladies and gentlemen, is that beneath the propaganda effort that they started on that Thursday, Ghanaians should be worried about something that is hidden in the accounts. And that is that on the watch of this government, the Bank of Ghana has for the first time in our nation's history become policy insolvent. And we shall prove it to you with their own numbers. I want to start by going to page 7 of the audited accounts that they published. Please go to the very top on page 7. And they start by defining what policy solvency is. Please go up to the very top. This is it. And I want to quote from their own accounts. Policy solvency reflects the capacity of a central bank to finance the full cost of its monetary policy operations, principally open market operations and other liquidity management instruments, from its own internally generated income without recourse to monetary financing or extraordinary government support. And this is how it is measured. It's in their own account. Is the difference between the operating income from core activities and the interest cost of sterilization instruments. So when you take all their revenue and then you take out their core cost of sterilization or open market operations, if you are in the positive, if you have surplus, then the Bank of Ghana is still policy solvent. If you are in the negative, then the Bank of Ghana has become policy insolvent. And we regret to inform you that despite all the propaganda, if you look at the numbers, for the first time in our history, the Bank of Ghana has become policy insolvent. Now let me take you to the numbers for you to have a look. They say in their report that in 2025, the Bank of Ghana recorded a strong policy solvency position, improving markedly over the 2024 outturn. This, fellow Ghanaians, is not true. Now watch. Policy solvency is when you add all the incomes so that you get income from operations 22 billion, and then you deduct the cost of open market operations 16 billion. That is the math that they have done, and are explaining that they are 5.5 billion Ghana cedis in the surplus, and that it is markedly higher than the 793 million that the previous managers of the central bank left for them. Now we're going to show you why it is not true. The highlighted line, the line we've highlighted, shows the net gain from the sale of refined gold at 9.5 billion Ghana cedis. To arrive at that 22 billion, they had to sell about 50% of our gold assets to generate
MB multimedia.
So to cover this up, they employed some clever accounting by hurriedly. And that's why you recall that when we kept asking, why was this gold sold hurriedly in the last about 2 months of the year, they couldn't explain. Only to say that this year, 2026, they were going to start accumulating new gold reserves. It was to generate artificial revenue of 9.5 billion. Now, if you take that 9.5 billion out of the other incomes, you will come to 12.7 billion. And now when you deduct the 16 billion from the 12 billion, you will be in negative 4 billion. Colleagues, negative 4 billion puts the Bank of Ghana in policy insolvency. This is the sad truth. This is the truth which the bank discovered in October and thus rushed to sell 50% of our gold reserves to generate artificial revenue to try and cover that deficit or that policy insolvency position. A one-off asset sale to cover the truth is not sustainable. So this year, which assets will they sell to cover it? The Bank of Ghana cannot continue selling assets to cover their policy insolvency. A central bank that needs to sell gold assets to cover up its policy insolvency is operating on borrowed time. The government and the bank, knowing the implications of this, have thus resorted to this clever attempt to spin it away and bury it in an NBC press conference, hoping that nobody will pay attention to the actual details. And as we'll demonstrate later, policy insolvency is as a result, this policy insolvency is as a result of new policies that they have introduced at the bank. Before it can perform its core mandate. And later this week, we will outline immediate measures that we believe the government should take to restore true policy solvency. Today, we just want to expose this sad fact, which the government is trying to hide from the Ghanaian people, that on the watch of the NDC, for the first time in our history, the Bank of Ghana has become policy insolvent. The second point we want to draw your attention to. The government and its spin doctors, led by the NDC party officials who did that press conference, are trying to convince the people of Ghana that the loss is 15.6 billion Ghana cedis. And colleagues, we don't blame you. We've seen many of you reporting that the loss is 15.6 billion cedis. We regret to tell the people of Ghana that this is not true. The true operating loss of the Bank of Ghana for the year 2025 is 34.9 billion Ghana cedis. And in fact, if you add back the sale of the gold, or the proceeds from the sale of the gold, the 9.6 that I've just shown you, the true comprehensive loss position of the Central Bank of Ghana is 44 billion Ghana cedis. I'll show you with the numbers. As I've mentioned, that gold sale was to reduce it from 44 to 35, and also to remove the policy insolvency that they found themselves into. So I'll take you into the numbers on the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the Bank of Ghana has employed a combination of artificial revenue recognition on one hand and clever accounting on another hand to try and cover this loss. Now, this is the consolidated and separate statements of other comprehensive income for the year ended 31st December 2025. Before, the Bank of Ghana did not split its accounts into two. They put all the accounts in one, in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards. On the watch of this new administration, they have amended the accounting standards they are using. And now they split it into two and move some into what they call the other comprehensive income. So what you have seen as the 15.6 is only the operating loss that they have declared in the operating accounts. But when you go to the consolidated and separate statements of the comprehensive income for the year ended 31st